Sox in the basement.
I'm the Sox nerd with this week's White Sox Stumper. What number did your mean Mercedes wear for the 2021 White Sox? I'll have my answer at the end of my spiel later in this podcast.
The trade deadline approaches. The team has been struggling. They get a walk-off win on Wednesday after I turned them off and decided to watch a movie, which actually wasn't that bad. Walk-off on Thursday. What was the name of this movie again? Have fun, or good luck, have fun, don't die. It's Sam Rockwell.
It sounds like the White Sox season, actually.
It does, right? It does. And
good luck, have fun, don't die.
It's Sam Rockwell playing a crazy person with a pretty good cast around him. And it basically warns you that very, very soon we're all just going to be taken over by AI. And it's brilliant. And it's like a sleeper movie. And I recommend it to all of you. And when you watch it, you're going to say, it's time for me to delete all my social media. Like, you're not going to want to go near your phone after this movie, if you really pay attention to what it's trying to tell you. Okay?
But keep your phone handy for Sox in the Basement episode.
Yes! Keep your phone handy. And of course, what do? I turn off that game because I'm like, I'm not watching them get their butts kicked by the Yankees again.
Right.
Like, I just didn't have it in me for another night. They've been so bad out of the gate. And then, of course, they come back. And you know, Edgar Carroll gets a walk-off on the weakest hit ever. But he did get it in there. You know, doesn't change my feelings about him. But at least he was able to contribute and get that game into the win column. I will take that. And we have a lot to talk about today. Sam Phalen from White Sox Roundtable's on this show. Sox Nerds on towards the end of this show. We've got some interesting stuff, not only about the draft that just happened that has come out. We've got listener mail. There's a lot of things. We've got acquisitions. They did go and grab another catcher. They went and out and grabbed the veteran that was sitting on the scrap heap after a bad first half to his season. And the guy goes right out and goes 3 for 5 in Charlotte. So you've got a lot of things going on. Jose Urquidy had a really nice first start for the White Sox. You know what the most impressive thing about that start was, Ed? The most impressive thing to me about that start was not that he did really well and that I think he was scoreless through 5 and just went out there and just looked like a boss. And you're like, how do we pick this guy up for basically nothing? And is he really the guy that he was a couple years ago before the injuries and everything fell apart? He's already been doing that down in AAA. He's already been pretty good so far in AAA. The problem has been when he comes up and gets his opportunity in the majors, he hasn't been back to form. Ozzie Guillen in the postgame asked about what he did his first game with the Knights, says, I don't know, all I know is this kid used to throw nothing but sliders and they didn't have him throw any of them. What if the White Sox went out and got a guy and said, here's the thing we don't want you to do anymore. Here's the thing we do want you to do. Go out there and try it and let us see what you do. And he did it. Like that is another name now you have to think about, could be showing up very soon in this rotation, or at least in the next couple of weeks, if that's all they thought when they went out and they got Jose Urquidy. This episode of Sox in the Basement and every episode brought to you by Hyatt Home Medical Equipment. Switch to a new age of life and keep mom and dad, grandma and grandpa out of assisted living. Make it so they can get around on their own and live independently. They do this with stair lifts. They do this with ramps, grab bars, lift chairs, bathroom remodeling. The idea is to make the home comfortable, make it easy to get around. You may not need all of that stuff. You may just have a hard time getting up out of the chair. And so you get yourself a lazy boy that's got a couple extra features, essentially. And you're getting it at a really good price, and insurance may pay for it. They work with your insurance. They get 0% financing for qualified individuals. They've got a beautiful showroom for you to go check everything out. And they've got online ordering as well. If your insurance company is saying you can get this equipment, you can request to get it through Hyatt Home Medical Equipment. They have the latest and greatest in CPAP machines and continuous glucose monitors. I learned that Jordan Hicks uses a continuous glucose monitor the other day on the broadcast. And that's something he monitors. And when they call to the bullpen, he has to check it and make sure that his blood sugar is at the right thing before he starts his warm-ups. Interesting tidbit when you're seeing Jordan Hicks go into the game. Learn all about Hyatt Home Medical Equipment. See what they can offer you at hhme.com. Jordan Hicks, I'm going to give you your flowers with the first listener mail. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you your flowers. The first listener mail that we got at soxinthebasement.com that I'm going to read today. Matt wrote, "Hey guys, love the show and glad Ed is alive and well. I like that they
thank you.
I like that they like to remind you that you almost died. And it's a good thing,
Trust
too.
me.
Maybe you'll take better care of yourself.
Yeah, I just went on vacation with my whole family. I was reminded several times.
Good. I'm going to keep reminding you because I want you to take better care of yourself. I mentioned in the last show, we're taking a trip to Milwaukee here in about a week for a big reunion with our friends. and we're going to be road traveling buddies. And we're getting a hotel room together. Separate beds, of course. I like to cuddle with you, but you don't like to cuddle with me. Okay, so...
You know, you're kind of sweaty. It's summer. Talk to me in winter.
Yeah, and I'm like, but I'm going with Ed, and I'll be reminding you on the trip. Don't do anything stupid on this trip, because I want to keep you alive. All right?
I will be wearing bubble wrap clothing and drinking only water that has been purified.
Good, because you're my designated driver, because I'm going to get lit.
I know.
Okay, Jordan Hicks deserves some credit, says Matt. Last 15 games, 0.73 whip, only 1 run allowed. That's wonderful. I mean, I'm excited about it. Anytime that here's a weird thing about the White Sox, and then I'll let you jump in. Here's a weird thing about them. I'm disappointed in the progression of pitching prospects. Hagen Smith has not done what I expected him to do up to this point. All right. And you've moved him into the bullpen now because you need bullpen help. And I think him and McDougal are going to be your bullpen help down the stretch here because they've shifted to that. Noah Schultz, nothing but problems from a guy that I was told was a can't miss. It seems like the young guys, they are not doing very well with that development. But for some reason, this is a team that can look at somebody who's already been a major leaguer and say, we need you to fix this and don't do this anymore. And they seem to be able to find results. It's really interesting, Ed.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit on something. We were talking about Jordan Hicks and his glucose monitoring, right? I mean, you can't discount the idea that the White Sox are helping this guy manage something like that better. And, because he was once upon a time, I mean, granted, years ago, he was once upon a time really, really good at baseball. And he was a really good pitcher. And he was a guy that was, looked like he was going to be a budding closer that was going to be dominant for years. And, even the Giants tried to get him out into the starting rotation, try and take advantage of his arm. His arm's never faltered. So when you look at what the White Sox can do and somebody like Urquidy, who, if he's got a sloppy slider that he really loves, or that other teams have been like, no, yeah, that's your best pitch. And the White Sox are looking at this going, no, you can rely on your fastball more. You've got good control. You can spot this. You can work with a changeup. That's great. One of the things I think that comes down to is with the young guys, how coachable are they and how much are they taking to it? Because I haven't seen Noah Schultz make a single adjustment, and I find it hard to believe with this coaching staff. I would believe it from past coaching staffs, but I find it hard to believe from this coaching staff that he has not been told to make adjustments with how he approaches batters. And it still just looks like when the chips get down on the mound, he still just rears back and thinks he can blow guys away, or thinks that his slider is just going to, mystify somebody, and it doesn't mystify major league hitters. So sometimes it's coachability, where Jordan Hicks has been around and Jose Urquidy has been around. And even, you think about Anthony Kay, you think about, Davis Martin starting to fall off, but I think that's fatigue more than anything else, or even Sean Burke. If a guy's been around a little bit and they're receptive to coaching and they're receptive to a game plan, and they don't fall back into old bad habits when things get a little rough, that shows that, you've got a coaching staff that knows what they're doing and you've got coachability. With young guys, I don't think sometimes they do that. Now, I'm not going to write off Hagen Smith just because Noah Schultz has been bad. I'm curious to see if Hagen Smith comes up here and when he gets his first taste of major league hitters, gets the feel for how the hitters are approaching him and makes an adjustment and does what he needs to do to try and get guys out or rework his game to fit the major league game. Because that to me is always going to end up being the key. You get called up when you were a guy that could throw 99 past a bunch of hitters who cannot connect on it, and maybe give up a homer to the one guy who can in a AAA lineup. That's one thing. But every single one of the guys that are up in a major league uniform in a lineup, even the bad lineups, are guys that at AAA would go and crush it because that's how they ended up getting here, right? So I think it's a coachability issue sometimes with the young guys, and I'm kind of wondering if when they talk about character and the drafts that they've had, that's why they're like, okay, we really got to have these guys that we think we can work with.
You may be right about that, and I don't like letting the organization off the hook, but it is interesting that more mature current Major League Baseball players seem to take to their message better, or at least they're getting better results with them. And it's something to definitely watch. When you speak about the draft, before we get to our guest, Sam Phalen, who is from White Sox Roundtable, and we're going to talk a little bit about the trade deadline, and we're going to talk about an article he wrote about Edgar Caro and the catching situation. We're going to dive into that. Cole Prozac was drafted 41st overall this year by the Chicago White Sox. A lot of people said that this guy, 19-year-old infielder, should have been a first-round draft pick, picked up a lot sooner than that. James Fegan, beat reporter for the White Sox, he's got an interesting article out where he breaks down what happened with Cole. If you've always wondered how the MLB draft works and how it's different from anything, just listen to this. And then, of course, I invite you to go check out the entire article from James. But Prozac felt, and he this is from the actual draft pick, he felt the Padres, Rockies, and Brewers were showing the most interest. But then the White Sox changed everything. Because remember, they make that trade and they get more money that they get to use. When they make that deal with the Pirates and they bring back more money. After the 9th pick in the draft, the 9th pick overall in the draft, he doesn't get picked till 41st. They call Prozac's agent and offer him the $3.25 million. They tell him if he makes it to us, we're going to give him $3.25 million, which is well over a slide. And the agent then ups his number for everybody who calls about him up to that point. Because he knows if he can make it to 41, he's going to get more money. So all these teams pass on him. He says, quote, "Nobody wanted to pay over it. So I fell to the White Sox. Here I am, which I'm very glad to be here in this organization. So I'd say it was a little surprise." That's how they get him. I mean, think about the forward thinking of trading Jacob Gonzalez to get more money and then to be over aggressive when it comes to grabbing the picks you want. That after you pick number 1 overall, while there's a team that just made the 9th pick and the people considering the 10th overall pick are making their moves and you're not picking until 41, you go, "Hey, Cole, we'll give you 3.25 if you can just convince people that you won't sign with them because you're in high school."
Don't forget, in the interim between picks 9 and 41, they take Landon Tomey.
Yeah, he's the 3rd one. They don't even take him second. They make the kid wait till 3 because they're able to wave that much money around. I mean, it's fascinating. It's completely different from what I would expect from this franchise, and once again, makes me smile. Before we get to our guest today, quick reminder for exterior windows, doors, patio doors, and storm doors, look no further than Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest. No high-pressure sales, not in your kitchen. You are in their showroom with full examples and glass designs on display. Forget pictures in a book. See it all in person with an owner in showroom and on site. All Window and Door Superstore installers, they never farm out the work, so it's their people, their owner, your questions, all answered. They've been doing it that way in Oak Forest since 1985 with all major brands custom made. They don't use stock items. That way they get the perfect fit. They are a half block east of 159th and Ridgeland, 6280 159th Street. Going to be a beautiful weekend. Stop by Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest or visit windowdooroakforest.com. Joining me right now through the magic of the interwebs, Sam Phalen is on the line. Sam caught my attention, I want to say a couple of months ago. I was reading some of his articles. He is part of White Sox Roundtable. And then my father comes walking in to the place just a couple days ago, and he talks about him at length in an article he wrote about Edgar Caro that I think you had my dad pumping his fist going, "It's about time somebody said all this stuff." Sam, welcome to Sox in the Basement. How are you?
Chris, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. Me and your dad would have no shortage of conversation topics because I find myself sitting here boring my wife with my rants about Edgar Caro at this stage. So I'm glad that somebody resonated with some of the thoughts.
Yeah, let's talk about that first. We got lots we can talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about the trade deadline as well, but let's talk about that first. I pointed out, I want to say in an episode about a week or so ago, that in a game where he wasn't the reason that they lost, he was the reason it was 4-0 instead of 3-0 because he couldn't catch a ball that hit him square in the glove after Braden Montgomery made a great throw from right that should have gunned the runner down. You in your article pointed out issues that you had with him just in recent games. It's also interesting that you have the White Sox going out and getting Eric Haas, who's a veteran catcher who last played, I want to say his last game was with San Francisco at the beginning of the month, I think the 10th of July. They let him go. Sox signed him to a minor league contract. They're doing anything they can to get a catcher in. It really speaks to the fact that they may be seeing the same things you're seeing. What are you seeing with Edgar Carroll that concerns you so much?
Well, to put it in simplest terms, he doesn't do anything well. Oftentimes backup catcher is a position nowadays where the offense is negligible, right? Like you're going to see OPSs that start with a 6, sometimes a 5, and that can be fine if it's a guy who knows your pitching staff really well and, does good things defensively behind the plate. I think that's what the White Sox were kind of hoping for Drew Romo to be. But with Caro, it's been well below that offensively. It's been poor defense. He is just right here in the 4th percentile in blocks. He is the slowest player in Major League Baseball. He is in the bottom 5th of catchers in pitch framing. He's the worst catcher in baseball at the ABS challenge system. And then you add on to it offensive production that is replaceable by just about anybody else in the system right now. It would be one thing if Edgar Caro was a black hole, and I mean that in the sense of if he was just a complete void from all production, but it's getting to a point now, obviously saying this, of course, we're recording on a Thursday fresh after he hits a walk-off single against the Yankees, but he is actively making the White Sox lose. Things like throwing the ball into center field, lazy tosses back to his pitchers that allow Jazz Chisholm to take an extra base and scoring on a ground ball. It is sort of this all-encompassing funk that he is in right now, looking overmatched at the big league level in a way that feels unplayable for the White Sox.
And the most interesting thing to me, Sam, is the fact that I don't think that the White Sox are in love with him and trying to force him down our throats. I think they feel like they don't have any other option. I mean, we were talking on the show just last episode, and actually the last couple episodes, I think it's come up. The idea that when you look down in Charlotte, sure, you're getting good production out of Michael Turner, but he's not very good defensively. Corey Lee has actually performed well, but when he was up in the majors, didn't do very well, and there's a lot of things that seem to be surrounding him that aren't confirmed. Like, we keep hearing little rumors of the fact that sometimes it's said that the pitchers may not like throwing to him. There's some sort of disconnect there, but he's not even an option. And that's really telling to me. And this is not a Rick Hahn guy either. This is not a Chris Getz guy. Edgar Carroll's a Rick Hahn guy. He's a Rick Hahn acquisition. So there's no way that Chris Getz is like in love with him and feels like he's got to prove that he's going to be good. So it's almost as if they just don't have anything. What happened from last year? Last year, we felt like we had too many catchers. This guy looked like almost like a commander on the field that was really in control of everything going on. It's a completely different guy. Do you have any explanation for it?
Honestly, well, Caro, the issue for him, I think he did too much with his swing in the offseason. There was a lot of good bat to ball last year as a rookie. The real concern was his launch angle. And you started to see he's hitting too many ground balls. He's not driving the baseball. I think it took him nearly to the end of the year before he recorded his first barrel in Major League Baseball. The power started to come in that last month a little bit where he hit 5 home runs or so. So that provided some room for optimism, but I really think he made an over-adjustment working with Driveline in the offseason to try and improve that launch angle and get the ball in the air. And it could just be one of those things of, hey, you make too many changes to your swing, trying to do it all at once. You've set yourself back now, and now you're in your head. And that, like baseball, the mental game for a catcher, for a young guy who felt like he had to step up with Kyle Teel on the injured list to begin the year. As far as the roster mechanics are concerned too, Chris, the other thing here is the 40-man roster. If you want to know why Edgar Caro is back up on the active roster right now, why they haven't given Michael Turner or Corey Lee or anybody else a shot, they only have so many 40-man roster spots that they're going to designate to the catching position. Kyle Teel is on the 40-man roster, even though he's on the 15-day IL right now, I believe. You have Drew Romo, you have Caro on the 40-man roster. You're not going to designate either of those guys, maybe Romo, for assignment at this point. And so is it worth it to give a 40-man roster spot to Michael Turner on the hope that he produces? I don't know, not in my eyes, especially if you feel like there might be an addition coming at the trade deadline via catcher. You're certainly not going to have 5 of these guys on your 40-man roster. So I think right now they are trying to tread water with Caro as much as possible and be like, can you just not screw us while we try to negotiate a trade? He'll probably go back down to AAA after that. But actively hurting them in the process. And who knows if they'll even be able to get a trade. Honestly, I think that's what Eric Haas is for them, is a contingency plan in case everything hits the fan over the next week or so. And the catching market is just so weird that they're not able to get anything done.
Yeah, let's talk about the market. I know you've been covering it for White Sox Roundtable. You've put out some of your thoughts on it. I'd like to hear where you're at as we get very, very close to it. This episode is releasing on the 31st of July. So, I mean, what do you think is going to happen between when somebody hears this episode and when that deadline finally passes? Are they going to get some starting pitching? Do you think there's a catcher out there? Because the weird thing for me during this time of year is all of the guess trades. All of they could give up this and then they could give that. And it's very hard to do that when you don't intricately know all the organizations involved. You can guess, but in reality, all I'm looking for is, do you think that Chris Getz is willing to part with pieces that are for the future because he believes enough in this, and will he get his asking price so that he can get back the players that he wants?
I do believe that Chris Getz's hesitation to trade prospects is overblown at this point. Do I think he's going to trade Caleb Bonham at the deadline? Absolutely not. I think Mason Miller was never a realistic option. I think Getz has kind of telegraphed that for a while now. I think he is willing to listen on a Billy Carlson. I think he is willing to listen on some of the guys in the top 10. As far as I'm concerned, telling teams that those guys are off the table is a standard negotiating tactic where I do believe the organization has some leeway. Now, do I think those guys get traded is a bit of a different conversation, because the asking prices for controllable starting pitching, which is probably what Getz would move a top prospect for, is going to be a bit ridiculous. My gut right now, July 30th, July 31st here, a few days before the deadline, is that the White Sox will get a starting pitcher. I think it will ultimately be somebody that has money on their contract that allows the White Sox to get frontline upside without dealing with a top prospect in the organization. The name I would watch right now is Kevin Gausman. I've heard the White Sox have made an offer on Kevin Gausman, that Kevin Gausman is very firmly on their radar. He has a profile that fits what the White Sox like. Fastball is his primary best pitch right now. Splitter is his secondary offering, has good control, doesn't walk many guys, playoff experience, a connection to Brian Bannister. There's a lot there for the White Sox to like, and the Blue Jays, who want out of the money, could give him up without requiring the White Sox to deal from that very tippy top of the farm system. So I think they're willing to have the conversation, Chris. I think it just matters. If you're Chris Getz and you're sitting there weighing, trading Billy Carlson and a whole lot of other top prospects for a Reed Detmers, or going and getting Kevin Gausman and maintaining your farm system, I think that trade-off is going to ultimately make the White Sox go for the cheaper option from a prospect capital standpoint.
Moose Vinyl is an application for record collectors to manage their record collections, buy and sell them. And it's available on your iPhone, coming very soon to the Android. I was just talking with them last week. They are working on that. They also have an amazing Lamont downtown location at 238 Main Street, where you can visit the Moose Vinyl Records store. So if you like collecting records, if you like buying records, if you like flipping through on the shelves, you can experience that. If you like to buy and sell your records online, keep track of your collection, the Moose Vinyl app is the newest, most streamlined app designed for collectors, allowing the importing of CSV files from other platforms to manage collections, and is already being praised for having the best user interface around. If you're not using the Moose Vinyl app and you are a record collector, I have to ask you, what are you doing with your life? Get out to their location at 238 Main Street as well for turntables and vintage audio equipment at discount, and tell them Sox in the Basement sent you. Check out Moose Vinyl right now on your iPhone in the App Store. Tell me if I'm crazy in my evaluation of how this trade deadline really works, at least over the last couple of years, because I've watched the White Sox be the team that's trying to get rid of somebody, and they know they got to get rid of the guy and get the best that they can because that's the highest value they're going to be. And now they're going on the other side of that coin. And it seems to me like what teams do now is those looking to acquire go to the teams that they know got to dump these guys. And they give an offer. And they may talk back and forth. But going into the final day, I imagine that there's 4 or 5 different things sitting out there. And the first team that calls up and says, fine, you're the best offer we can get. We know we're getting rid of, let's say, a Kevin Gossman. You're the best one. Let's make a deal. And then they call the other teams and go, yeah, now the deal's off the table because we got the pitcher that we wanted. Like, it's like one of those things where it's like, that's why you get the flurry of activity at the end, because it's almost like this stubborn, I want this price, I want that price, and you're waiting for people to finally say, okay, this is the best I'm going to get. I'm going to make a trade. Is that the most accurate way to look at this?
Yeah, I mean, it is a domino effect. It's similar, and even more so at the trade deadline, but similar to free agency in a way. And we can use, White Sox fans will resonate with this if we just go back to this last offseason and look at a Munetaka Murakami, a guy who everybody's asking, why is his market so down? Why are teams not willing to pay for Murakami? And the answer to that question is that there were so many other big bats, quote unquote, on the market that, yeah, you might have interest in Murakami. But if you can get Gino Suarez, if you can get Pete Alonso, if you can get Kyle Schwarber, you're going to be looking over there if you're a contending team. And so you don't want to get caught with your pants down. You don't want to be the team that is weighing all of your options. And then you look up at the end of the trade deadline and go, oh, that was a really good price for that guy. And we didn't take it because we were thinking about this other one. But, right now, everybody's still lying. Everybody is still saying, we're not trading this guy. We're not trading this guy. They're maintaining as much leverage as they possibly can. And when it pops, it's going to pop. And you're going to start to see, not only has the market price been set for a starting pitcher, but one of those targets of team X, Y, and Z is off the table, which makes them pivot, which now we're starting to see the dominoes fall. So it's about timing up your deal, making sure that you don't panic and overpay, but then also not sitting there so long so that all of your options go and you have to just take whatever you can get in the last moment, which I think we've seen Rick Hahn do in the past. 2022 comes to mind in that regard.
All right, Sam Phalen is with Roundtable, White Sox Roundtable. And Sam, before I let you go, I do have to let you know this. You were a Survivor 47 contestant. You were a runner-up. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, first
correct.
of all, that's incredible. Secondly, to tell you how old I am, on my one of my radio stops, I think my second one when I was at WOMP, WOMP FM, in Wheeling, West Virginia, around the turn of the millennium. Okay. I used to interview every week because it wasn't that big of a show in its first year. Nobody knew what it was. I used to interview every week a contestant off of the original Survivor, even Richard Hatch, who ended up winning it. You were my first Survivor contestant, though, in decades. So I just wanted to say, you're in good company hanging out on the air with me.
Absolutely. I actually met Richard Hatch a couple of weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago at this time. Phenomenal guy. I really enjoyed my time with him. So, he was the original. He's the one that everybody built their strategy off of, because everybody else was trying to play the game like be a good person, and he was like, "Nah, I'm going to win the money." And he won. But he's the guy to kind of set the tone. And I find it funny that you've met him. I imagine a secret society of Survivor contestants that get together and just hang out. It's not far off, and you're absolutely right that the part of the show that I love is that strategy and is the social deception of it all. And without Richard Hatch winning that first season, who knows what path the show goes down as a survivalist show or something. So you needed Hatch to set the culture, set the tone, and he certainly did that back in 2001, I believe it was.
Well, before I let you go, speaking of Survivor, do they survive? I mean, I think I tweeted the other day that this team, the way that they've been over the last week or so, they're almost telling Chris Getz either we really need help or it ain't time yet. And I've heard that echoed since I've said it on other places. So I know that everybody's kind of thinking the same thing. Do they survive?
I am going to say yes, and I don't have much conviction behind it. Minnesota doesn't scare me. I think they're a better team than Cleveland. I'm terrified of the Tigers, but the feeling is starting to become that the Tigers are selling, that Tarek Skubal is going to go elsewhere. This is probably a cop-out answer. I'd say ask me in a week. Like I want to see what they do against the Rays. I want to see what comes in at the deadline, because certainly the starting pitching is not sustainable right now when you have one guy in your rotation that can make it through 6 innings when your bullpen is wearing down. They need help in that regard, and probably whatever that starting rotation looks like a week from now will be the answer for whether or not I think they ultimately will win the AL Central here.
All right, Sam Phalen from White Sox Roundtable trying to find an excuse to get back on the show. We'll have him back on sometime. I promise, Sam. Thank you so much for jumping on.
All right, thank you, Chris.
Things that stick out the most from that interview. Number one, if we bring Sam Phalen back on the show enough, I think our YouTube numbers, our video numbers with women go through the roof. Because that's a beautiful man. I mean, this guy walked around on television with his shirt off for weeks. And you and I are not going to get that same effect. No. We're way past that. We're not bringing in the ladies based on our looks.
As previously discussed, I'm one step ahead of being a corpse. So
we need to add him back in and pump up those female numbers, I think, on the video. Yeah. On the video. Yeah. I mean, they may like the sound of his voice, but on the video feed, I think there's an asset there. And two, he thinks that Gaussman is a really good possibility for the White Sox to get at the deadline. Now, I don't know what's going to happen between us recording this and by the time that this comes out. And, it always happens that way. He may have already been dealt by the time this episode comes out to somebody else, or he may have ended up on the White Sox. But the most interesting thing is, you brought it up. Kevin Gaussman has a no trade clause, and one of the teams on it is the Chicago White Sox.
From when he signed, and this isn't a recent one. Like, he didn't just tell, the Toronto GM at the trade deadline, I'm not going to the White Sox. This was when he signed the deal in 2021.
Yes, and this is the most interesting. Think about what this team was. He signed the deal on December 1st, 2021. Think about this team on December 1st, 2021. And why would this guy not want to go to the White Sox? He blocked the Sox, the Pirates, the Brewers, the Tigers, the Mariners, the Mets, the A's, and the Reds. Now, I don't know what his reasons are for all those teams.
Well, most of those teams in 2021, right. I mean, the White Sox ended up being a playoff team that year.
That is correct. But something he didn't like about that team. He didn't like the general manager. He didn't like players on that team. He didn't like where that team was going. He didn't like who the manager was. There's a lot that's changed. This is a very different team with a very different vibe. So whereas there is a no trade clause, I think he might waive that. You're telling me he doesn't want to come and be a part of this? Music means the Sox nerd, Dave Marin, is on the line with his trivia nuggets and tidbits that he brings to you each and every home game at the rate. And then he brings even more here to Sox in the Basement each and every week. He's brought to you by the Village of Lamont. Want to experience a downtown with real history, great eats and drinks, and green spaces filled with adventure? Visit the Village of Lamont. Shop, dine, drink, explore, and see everything they have going on this weekend and beyond at lamontdowntown.com. Nerd, what do you got for me?
Rookies everywhere, but will the White Sox have a Rookie of the Year? Let's talk White Sox first-year players, shall we? Speaking of the Rookie of the Year award, the last Sox player to net that honor was Jose Abreu in 2014. I put forth that Munetaka Murakami and Sam Antonacci have solid shots at winning the award. And who knows, if Braden Montgomery or Tristan Peters finishes up strong and carries the Sox to a division title, they may enter the conversation as well. Peters' walk-off walk on Thursday was the Sox first since August 15th, 2015, thanks to Avisail Garcia's good eye. That was the fifth walk-off by a White Sox rookie this season. The last time that happened was in 1962, and thanks to my fellow nerds at Elias for that one. The other Sox rookies with walk-offs this season are Jacob Gonzalez, Braden Montgomery, and Sam Antonacci. Oh, And Peters is the first Sox rookie with 2 walk-off hits in a season since that Palka-maniac, Daniel Palka, in 2018. There was an interesting rookie wrinkle to Braden Montgomery's triple on Monday night against the Yankees. That 3-bagger was the first by a White Sox rookie against the Bronx Bombers at Rate Field since Chris Getz's triple on August 2nd, 2009. Some other notable rookie accomplishments by Sox players this season include Murakami and Peters were the first Sox rookie teammates to make an All-Star team since 1951 with Minnie Minoso and Jim Busby. This is the first time the White Sox have had 2 rookies with 6 RBI games. Murakami did it on July 26th, and Peters did it a month earlier. Mooney and Jose Abreu in 2014 are the only Sox rookie first baseman with 6 RBI games, and Peters is the only Sox rookie center fielder with that many RBI in a game. In addition, Peters and Ken Henderson in 1974 are the only Sox center fielders with 6 RBI games. As for Sox rookie records, Mooney has a great shot at breaking Abreu's record of 36 homers set in 2014. And I'd also say Mooney has an outside shot at Maury Rath's 1912 rookie record of 95 runs. Other than that, every other Sox rookie season record looks unbreakable, like forever. Do you ever think the Sox will have another rookie that hits .326 and scores 112 runs with 14 triples like Minoso did in 1951? Or drives in 114 runs and bangs out 193 hits like Smead Jolly did in 1930? Or collects 39 doubles like Willie Cam did in 1923? I don't either. If I can go off book for a minute, good riddance to the Yankees. What a slow-moving, tedious, and draining outfit they are. I hope that band of boredom flames out in the playoffs and it's the Sox who send them home. Before I get to my stumper answer and zinger, I remind you, gems like these and more can be found on my WordPress blog, which you can find at soxinthebasement.com. I'm also on X, Threads, Facebook, and Instagram. My stumper answer? I asked what number 2021 rookie sensation Yermin Mercedes wore, and it was 73. My zinger? The Sox and Yankees played games of at least 11 innings on Wednesday and Thursday. The last time the Sox played 2 games of at least 11 innings against the Yankees was in 1987, and the last time, prior to this week, the Sox won 2 of those games was in 1985. That's it, guys. Probably more than you wanted to know about rookies, Palkamania, and the Yerminator.
Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement.
Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always on soxinthebasement.com.